Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Clangin and Bangin with Mikey, episode 294. And what I wanted to talk about today in this particular episode, I know I haven't scripted out none of my questions or podcasts or anything like that, but I'm gonna start back doing that because I just feel like it flows better. But that probably won't happen for another couple episodes. What I wanted to say, man, is it's okay to let go. It's okay to 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 realize that the person that you're dealing with, you know, doesn't respect your time or respect you or whatever it is. And I don't mean anything disparaging by saying that towards anybody, but I'm gonna tell a story real quick if I may. So y'all remember Big Head, right? From years ago. Um, Last couple of weeks we've been communicating back and forth, and it's been majority me initiating, the conversations, which to me is already a red flag. So we was talking for a couple weeks, and I said like, yo, like we should like go out to lunch one day and just catch up, you know, try to finally put all this bullshit behind us, and it was like be adults about it, right? And she's yeah, she's okay. Like I would like that, bet. And so I think this is like Tuesday or Wednesday. And then she's like, well, she's like, well, let me get back to you, um, and see if my weekend's clear, right? Okay, cool. So, my bad. I take that back. No, this was Wednesday. So Thursday comes, I don't hear nothing. Friday comes, I don't hear nothing. So about Friday morning, I sent her a text, and I said, hey, like, what's the move for tomorrow? Let me know. And this is like at 8:30 in the morning. She hits me back at like at 3:30 in the afternoon, which I already know is as basically a no, because it's like it doesn't take you all day to return a text message. You just don't want to return the text message. So I look at the phone. I don't. I don't. Yeah. I don't respond to the text message because like what she said doesn't need a response. And she's like, hey, well, like, my niece has a soccer game, and then I'm helping my friend move, and then like the last sentence was like, well, it's gonna be a busy weekend. Translation: I don't have time for you this weekend. And I'm like, okay, whatever, because it is what it is. I've never heard of a friend helping another friend move, and we're in our late 30s, early 40s. It's like, sis, people hire moving companies for that shit. Spend the extra couple $100 and just do that. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, whatever, because it is what it is. It's like, I don't want to say I don't care, because I do care, but at the same time, it's like, I'm not gonna force a conversation. I'm not gonna chase you. I'm not gonna do X, Y, and Z. Um, Kind of made me think of my ex when she said like, "Well, if I don't chase you, we don't talk." And I'm like, "What makes you think you got to chase me? What makes you think that you have to do X, Y, and Z to get my attention? You already have my attention, you know?" And she's like, "Wait, what?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like you don't have to do any of the extra shit. You don't, you know. And it's pointless that you think that you have to do that, because you don't have to do that. And so I just thought that was interesting, man, because it's like so many people are used to the younger version of me chasing them. You know, so many like the younger version of me would sit there, ask questions, wonder what I did wrong and X, Y, and Z. In reality, I didn't do shit wrong. In reality, it's like the person wasn't interested in you, you know? Or like, take for instance my ex girlfriend, right? When she tried to dig up dirt on me, and when she tried to, just do all this crazy shit. This didn't make any sense. And I remember she was telling me like, "Oh, like, would you ever tell me if you were dating somebody new?" I'm like, why would that ever come up? You know, what's the point? Number one is like the only way that would come up if we're talking every day. Why would I talk to my ex girlfriend every day? And and I told her like, even if I was dating somebody new, I would tell you that, and then I would cut you off because it's not fair to somebody else that my ex girlfriend, who I don't have any kids with, who I don't share any property with, is contacting me almost every day. It just doesn't make any sense. So with that being said, I think it's important to realize that everything comes to an end. Everything is it's not really anybody's fault. You know, it's not. It's things of people have lives. They have their own traumas and everything that they have to work through, and I get it. I understand it. I'm not sitting there casting judgment. I'm not sitting there saying that, oh, so and so is better than you because like they never been through anything, whatever they could, like they're not. Um, and if anybody tells you differently, they full of shit because it's like never trust nobody who's never been through anything. Whether self-imposed or not self-imposed. Um, and I think that's the most interesting thing when people will sit there and give advice, you know, about situations they've never been in. And I'm not talking about like the guy who never had a girlfriend or the girl who never had a guy, and like they're giving advice because people do that every day, and it's to me it's kind of pointless. But I'm talking about like people who've never lost a loved one or never been through anything traumatic or anything like that, of that nature, and I think when people realize that like they're not cut out for this or whatever it is, and it's true, especially when people monkey branch, because I've had it happen to me too, where people will monkey branch thinking like, oh yeah, X, Y, and Z, I can just go to back to this person and that person, and I like they're gonna take me back, and I'm like, no, it's not gonna happen, you know, and it's idiotic for somebody to sit there and think that they can just do what they want to do. Let me put my mic up real quick. And I think it's idiotic for people to sit there and think that you can do certain things and say certain things to some people, and like there's no consequences for it, right? And there is. The consequences is you not being romantically involved with that person anymore. Consequences are you not being thought of or sought after or whatever it is, right? And the most painful thing is like when you lose a relationship and you thought that shit was gonna last forever. Uh, Forever is always temporary. And when I tell these young cats that like they don't get it, I'm like, bro, it don't matter like if it's 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is. Everything's always temporary. You know, I used to tell my ex like, yo, I want this forever, for however long forever is. And she'd be like, "What?" I was like, "Yeah." It's like it's a 50-50 shot that we don't work out. But that's the risk I'm willing to take. And when I tell people that, they're like, "But what do you mean? Is it 50-50?" Like, yo, it's like what attracts you in the beginning might be the same thing that breaks you up in the end. You know, or what attracts you in the beginning is something different in the end. And what you got to realize that is that people grow, they mature. I used to tell people all the time, it's like you're not gonna be the same person, at 15 that you are at 21, at 21 at 25, 25 to 30, you know, 30 to 35, and so on and so on and so on. It's like people grow, they change, they get better. You know, you hope, and I think that's where a lot of people get it screwed up at too. Is like they sit there and they be like, oh yeah, but this isn't the same person I married at 25 and they're 50. Of course, man. Like people change. Like they get better. Um, and like you would hope that you would change with them. Excuse me. But the biggest thing I don't understand is like when people don't vet their partners, their significant others, and see how they handle the stress and see how they do X, Y, and Z. And I remember once my ex told me like, oh well, like something about like, well, there hasn't been a situation where well, where you got to choose me first. And I'm like, I told her like, you think I need a situation to choose you first? It's like I'm with you because I'm choosing you every day. And she's like, wait, what? I was like, yeah. It's like I'm with you because I'm choosing you every day. It's like I'm like, if I didn't want to be with you, you would know. You know, there wouldn't be no like, you know, there wouldn't be no X, Y, and Z or yada 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 whoop de whoop. It's like no, it's like I'm with you because I want to be with you. I don't need to be. I don't need a particular situation to help me choose you. You know, like if you need a particular situation to choose somebody, that means you're not even probably not even supposed to be with that individual. And it's also disheartening to me, like when people say that shit, and then then you sit there and you think like, damn, this person is really like they're really they're really fragile, you know. And I don't mean just I don't mean just my romantic relationships. I'm talking about my my actual friendships too. It's like I'm gonna tell you a story, right? I was a senior in high school. No, I was going into my senior year in high school, and that summer everybody was applying to schools, trying to figure out where they want to go and whatnot. And yeah, and back then it's like schools was cheaper. I think the University of Hawaii back then was like 3,000 a year. It was crazy, stupid cheap. And guys would literally work minimum wage jobs, work the whole summer, you know, apply for financial aid, do your thing, whatever it is, right? And they would, get the Pell Grants of financial aid and all that stuff. And it's like the financial aid would cover most of it, you know, if not all of it, depending. Anyway, so it was me and three of my boys, right? One of my friends, he went off and got a degree from Northern Arizona University in geography, I think, right? Well, I matriculated at the local community college, and then I transferred to UH my through my I had a federal grant that I went to school on, which looking back on it 20 years later, bro, man, it saved my black ass in so many different ways. I didn't have to pay for school. Um, they were, I believe, my freshman year. They paid for they paid for room and board if I wanted that. And I'm like, nah. I told him like, I didn't drive yet, so I was like, I don't want to be stuck at the university and have my mom them come pick me up every fucking weekend or whatever. I just didn't want to be stranded at the school. Anyway, so fast forward a few years, I said, let me go back. So junior year, everybody's applying to schools and whatnot, and everybody's talking about like where they want to go and all that stuff. And so, senior year comes around, me and my brother, God rest the dead. Um, we go off and do our senior pictures and whatnot and the whole nine. And prom rolls around. Everybody's talking about like what schools they got accepted into and yada yada yada. And I'm like, because I always knew I was gonna go to college. I just didn't know where. And that's where DVR comes in. And they would tell me like, oh yeah, you can apply to the local community college and then you can matriculate to a university. And I'm like, mind you, I'm 17, 18 years old. I don't know what these words mean. So I'm like matriculate, and she's like, yeah, well, you can continue your education, your higher education through a community college, and then you can transfer to whatever school that you want to go to, and but here's the thing, we'll cover whatever the in-state tuition is for your homes for your home university, and the room and board. So let's say it's 3,000 a year, but I want to go somewhere that's like it's 8,000 a year. I'm in a whole 5 grand because I gotta cover that extra cost, which makes sense. And like, and the same thing with the classes and everything too. Like, there's only a certain amount that they would pay for, in terms of the classes and how much it costs and everything too. So in a grand scheme of things, what they were telling me was that you can do what you want, but I'm gonna let you know, you're gonna have to cover everything else. Okay, cool, bet. Uh, so that happens. Spend the summer, not really knowing what I wanted to do, and then my mom, she goes off and signs me up for community college, and that right there saved my life. Because I literally I knew I wanted to go to college. I just didn't know what to do. And then my mom goes like, "Yo, it was like I signed you up for community college. Just go take a couple of courses. Work your part time job, do whatever you got to do, right?" Okay, cool. I did that. Um, mind you, getting back to my three other friends. My boy goes off and goes to Northern Arizona, gets his degree. This is years later, and two of my other friends, they don't end up going to college at all, which is a mistake because one of the dudes in the group, who was actually the smartest guy in the group, uh, he always had some excuse of why he didn't want to go, or like what the issue was or whatever it was, right? There's always something going on with this cat. Like, he was never, like, you could never get him to commit to anything, you know. Unless there was money involved, this nigga would not do it. Um, and so years go by. I get my degree. My boy gets, my boy Ben had his degree. Um, two my other two friends, they're working the same job that they've had since high school. Like, they literally are still working the same gig. and and like, one of my friends one day said something like, "Oh yeah, well, if I had the same opportunities that you guys had, that everybody else had, I could have went to college too." I'm like, "Bro, what are you talking about? Your mom and your grandmother offered to pay for you to go to trade school." And back then, I think the trade school he wanted to go to was like 2,000 a year, and it was a 2 year program. So you're talking $4,000, bro, for 2 years. You know, and I, and right after you get done with your certification, they hook you up with a job because you're certified to be a mechanic or whatever it is, right? I think it was like New York Tech School was meant to, like, they was like one of the best schools on the island to go for automotive, and like he kept talking about it, and I'm like, bro, it's like I was $4,000. I know people who make that in 2 weeks, bro. Yeah, yeah. I know people that could cover it. This is 20 years ago. A person I know nowadays could have covered that tuition with one check. You know, and he told me like, yeah, man, I didn't want my mom or my dad to hold it over my head. That they helped me, and I'm like, But nigga, that's their job. Their job is to make sure that you better off than they were. Their job is to make sure that you're a productive member of society. Nobody cares how you got there. Excuse me. Nobody cares how you got there. And now in my 30s, or my late 30s, I should say, it's interesting, man, because one of my one of my boys, he went off and got his master's in business administration. The one that got his bachelor's in geography. He's married, got a house and everything too. And my other partner, I don't know what he's really up to, other than working. The other guy that I was talking about, he finally moved out of his parents' house, and like he's paying rent, X, Y, and Z. But he's got a son and everything too, and I think he's got a girl that the girl he's still living with and whatnot. I don't know if he's married or not, but I'm like, bro, it's like I run into him every once in a while, and it's like I think back to all the stupid shit that we did as kids, bro, and it's like, man, my boy, it's like out of the four of us, you were probably the one that should have made it. You were probably the one that should have been the most successful out of all four of us. You know, because out of all four of us, he was the most street smart. He was the most headstrong individual. But I look back on that shit and I'm like, 20 years is a long time to think about a friendship and think about the certain shit that people do, and it's like, damn, it's like it's crazy how fucked up life can be, and fucked up meaning is like the choices you make back then will influence the choices you make now. You know, because it's like whenever he would hang out with certain people, and I'm talking about guys he went to USC, because I like me, and my boy, my other boy, like we knew people who went to USC, Chaminade, Stanford, the whole nine. So it's like we could walk into any room and we could talk to them, whereas he didn't know what to do. He felt so insignificant and so small compared to them. I'm like, bro, it's like, it don't matter. You know, like walking into a room and having a conversation with somebody is like trying to understand um that they're the same people that we are. You know, there's nothing different about them. And there's nothing that it's always interesting too because you can see him like almost feeling ashamed for himself because it's like he let all this opportunity and everything else slip away from him. And it's like, bro, it's like if you would have just went off and did what you wanted to do, like what you said you was gonna do 20 years ago, you know, who knows? Your life could have been vastly different. You know, instead of you working at a at a grocery chain store, you could have been running your own business. You know, and I think that's the most disheartening thing because like that was the same guy. I'm a I'm gonna go off the tab bit for a little bit. I remember when 50 Cent movie came out, Get Rich or Die Trying, not the soundtrack, the actual movie. And I remember the cops at the movie theater were checking IDs, and I'm like, for what? It's a fucking movie. And mind you, we grew up in Hawaii, you know. None of us are gangbangers, even though these kids nowadays think that they are, and they're not. They're not. And so I remember we're sitting there watching the movie, and like same guy talks about like, oh yeah, selling drugs, this and this and that. I'm like, bro, didn't you sit there and watch the movie? 50 Cent himself said like standing in the corner is making less than minimum wage. Nigga, we make minimum wage. So what he's trying to tell you is that don't do what he did, you know, because the probability of you going to jail is more likely than not. It's like You know how many motherfuckers get shot in the corner? You know how many people die because of the choices that they make? For every 50 cent, there's 100,000 people that wish they had the same opportunity or wish they had the same break that he got. Because if he wouldn't, would have went right instead of left, you know how different his life could have been, bro. You know what I mean? So it's like at the end of the day, like when you sit there and you hear people talk, and it's like, and nowadays when I run into him, it's like it's like you can tell that like he's feeling the weight of his decisions, and it's like you know, and I know guys who when we were young, 19, 20, 21 years old, dealing drugs, doing X, Y, and Z, and it's like you know most of them guys ain't like they in jail or they're dead, you know, and it just makes you wonder. It's like, damn, you know, is this really something I want to do, or or is this a lifestyle that I uh want to continue doing? And I think a lot of the times people will sit there and like they will not understand the severity of their actions until years or decades later. And that's why I tell all these young kids, especially the kids that are, kid, like anybody I know that has kids in high school, whatnot, too. I tell them it's like, yo, enjoy it, because these 4 years are gonna go by quickly, and there's really nothing that that can prepare you for real life instead of you know other than just dealing with it. And I was like, you don't want to make a decision at 16, 17 years old that will most likely impact your entire life. It's like it's like hanging out with your friends who ain't going nowhere, or hooking up with that dude or that girl and having a kid by her when you're 16, 17 years old. It's like, I'm not saying that your life is over. I'm saying it's gonna be difficult, you know? So I tell these kids, it's like, yo, it's like instead of you trying to force a relationship, instead of you trying to force things to make it, to make yourself feel happy or content, whatever it is, you have to have the ability to understand that, you know, that it's okay, for certain things to end, you know? Not everybody that you were friends with in high school, you're gonna be friends with in 5 years, post high school, 10 years, 20 years. You know, there's a lot of people out there that will just be acquaintances after it's a period of time, and some people would, some people will make themselves, acquaintances. You know, like you can't force a relationship, you can't force a bond to be there. It's like it's either there or it's not. You know, like you can't make somebody be somebody that who they're not. You can't force somebody to be like, oh yeah, X, Y, and Z, boom, 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 boom. Okay, cool, great, whatever. And I think that's the most important thing to realize, that it's okay to let certain things go, to let them dissipate, to let them fizzle away, and like you have to understand that like you can't save everybody. You know, you can only save yourself. And then like the older I get, the more I realize like, yo, that's extremely important. You know, like I wish I could go back and and like tell the 16, 17, 18 year old Mikey that, yo, um, there are certain things that that's gonna happen to you, that's gonna make you become the man that you are today. You know, so and Nipsey Hussle is my favorite rapper, and he said, you know, you can't get the experience without making the mistakes, but you don't get the wisdom without making the mistakes. And it's true. Everybody talks about being wiser, being X, Y, and Z, but in reality, when you look at certain things and how certain people handle themselves, it's like a lot of people will sit there and give you experience, or give you advice when they haven't done anything. Um, it's like, take for instance, I grew up on an island, and Everybody talks about moving away, doing X, Y, and Z, but in reality, few people have done it. You know, few people have done it. And those who have done it, most of us don't come back. Those of us who do come back, we come back for different reasons. But for the most part, man, it's like people will sit there and like not understand that, like, yo, like, how you gonna give advice for something that you never done? Make it make sense. How are you gonna sit there and give somebody advice when you haven't moved, to a different, you know, not even a different zip code. Try a different time zone. Try time zones. You know, people think like moving across the island is difficult. No, moving across the island isn't difficult. Try shipping your car, packing your whole life in a couple suitcases, moving across the country with just you. You know, looking for apartments. You know, let's be real. You know, let's be real. A few people don't know what it feels like, bro. And I'm not talking like like the guys who are in the military, X, Y, and Z. And no, I'm not talking about that because pretty much you know where you're going. You know, you don't have to really worry about housing. You don't have to really worry about shit, stuff getting shipped because the military does all that for you. I'm talking about the kids, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. You know, who do it on their own. I'm talking about the kids who one day they're here, next day they're not. You know, and that's what I'm talking about. And I think a lot of people they love to talk about what they want to do, and few do what they actually want to do. You know, and everybody everybody has their chances. Um to make themselves experience life and make the mistakes that they're gonna make and like understand it's okay because it is. Very rarely do we sit there and they're like, oh yeah, X, Y, and Z, yada yada yada. Okay, but what have you done? You know, what have you done to make yourself be better than what you currently are? And a lot of people can't answer that question. And I think as I get older and I realize, yo, it's okay to be this. It's okay to chase your goals and do whatever you want to do. It's never okay to ask somebody for advice when they haven't done what you wanted to do. Um, Me personally, I've never been married. I've never been divorced, so I can't give advice on that. But if people ask my opinion, I'd be like, look, if I was in your shoes and you're telling me X, Y, and Z, I would look at the pros and cons of the situation. And the pros and cons is this. Okay, bet. You were married for X amount of years, whatever it is. Of course, there are going to be some good times in that. But obviously, you're bringing up divorce, so that's obviously the bad outweighs the good. I'm not saying sit there and ignore what the bad is, and just to focus on the good, because if it was not all bad, you wouldn't be at the impasse that you're at, right? And so when I tell people, it's like, you have to realize that nobody's living your life except you. People can't sit there and give you advice or give you X, Y, and Z when it's not there, or like when they're not living that life, like they're not dealing with what you have to deal with, and that I can understand. But what I don't understand is when people who are perpetually single, who are always giving advice on situations that they never ever find themselves in. I'm talking about the homeboy who can't get a girl to save his life. I'm talking about the homegirl who always has an opinion about everybody else. But when it comes to her, nah, bitch thinks that she's perfect and she's not. But yeah, um, on a lighter note, I've I've been working on digging through my crates volume 3. Um, it's a slow process, man, because it's like it's me being me in my creative space and trying to figure out what tracks make the album, what tracks don't make the album, and so it's like at the end of the day, it's probably gonna be some of my best work. Anyway, y'all, this is about 36 minutes of your life that y'all won't get back. Hope y'all keeping it 4 P's: private, player, positive, and pushing. I see y'all next week. I love y'all. I like I always say, know your worth because you're better than what you are. All right, y'all. Peace. Have a beautiful Sunday.